I used to believe innocence was something you could keep locked away, that if you stayed quiet enough, invisible enough, the world would leave you untouched. I was wrong. The moment Dante Moretti's eyes found mine across that crowded hospital corridor, I understood that some men don't wait for permission to rewrite your entire existence. He stood there in his $1,000 suit, blood on his cufflinks, looking at me like I was the answer to a question I'd never heard him ask. I should have turned away. Should have pretended I didn't see the wound beneath his jacket, the exhaustion carved into his beautiful, dangerous face. Instead, I walked toward him, and the girl I'd been for 23 years began to disappear. You will feel so many emotions in this mysterious love story I'm about to tell. Please support us by clicking subscribe to the channel. The night shift at St. Catherine's Hospital in Chicago has a rhythm I've learned to love. 3 a.m., quietness, the fluorescent hum. The way I can disappear into my work, just another nursing student in scrubs, nobody worth noticing. I've built my entire life around being nobody worth noticing. It's safer that way, cheaper. When you're paying your own tuition and sleeping 4 hours a night, invisibility becomes a survival skill. But tonight feels different. The air in the emergency room crackles with an energy that makes my skin prickle, makes me check over my shoulder even when nothing's there. Then the doors explode inward. Not literally, but it feels that way. 5 men in suits that cost more than my car, more than my education, moving with the kind of purpose that makes everyone else freeze. They're carrying someone between them, and the hospital security that usually swarms any hint of trouble suddenly develops a collective case of selective blindness. I watch Officer Martinez, who once gave me a hard time about my parking permit, turn his back and study the wall like it contains the secrets of the universe. The nurses I respect, women who've taught me everything from wound care to workplace politics, they step back too. Faces carefully blank, eyes averted. That's when I see him. Dante Moretti. I know the name before anyone says it. The way you know a storm is coming before the first drop of rain. Everyone in Chicago knows that name. It's whispered in bars and shouted in courtrooms. It's the name that makes cops cash checks they shouldn't, and politicians forget promises they made. He's the man who runs half this city from the shadows, and right now, he's bleeding onto St. Catherine's pristine floors. Our eyes meet across 15 feet of sterile tile. His are dark, not just brown, dark in a way that suggests depths I shouldn't want to explore. Even bleeding, even leaning on 2 men who look like they could bench press a sedan, he's the most present person I've ever seen. Like he's experiencing every molecule of air, every heartbeat, every possibility. You're not afraid, he says. It's not a question. His voice is rough, probably from pain, but there's something underneath it, something curious. I should be afraid. Any smart girl would be. But I've been afraid before, really afraid, the kind that lives in your bones and teaches you things about yourself you wish you didn't know. This doesn't feel like that. This feels like standing at the edge of something vast and being given a choice about whether to step forward or back away. The senior nurses have vanished. Literally. One moment they were pretending to organize supplies, and the next they've evaporated like morning mist. It's just me in this corner of the ER and 5 dangerous men, and 1 bleeding king of Chicago's underworld. I walk toward them. My hands don't shake as I guide them to an empty exam room. Don't shake as I cut away his shirt. Armani, probably, ruined now, to expose the knife wound below his ribs. It's clean, deep but not arterial. He'll live, assuming infection doesn't set in. You need a real doctor, I tell him, my voice steadier than I feel. I have you. I'm a student. You have steady hands. He's watching me while I work, studying me with an intensity that should feel invasive, but instead feels like being read. Like he's collecting information about me the way other people collect stamps or vintage cars. I clean the wound with methodical care, the way Professor Chen taught me. Pressure here, irrigation there. My training takes over, and for a few minutes, I forget who he is, forget what he is. He's just a patient who needs help. When I finish, when I've done everything I can within my scope of practice and my borrowed authority, I step back. Someone will need to suture that properly, I say. He catches my wrist, not hard but absolute. His hand is warm, his grip gentle but utterly certain, and I realize this is what power feels like up close, not violence, not threat. Just the absolute confidence that the world bends around you because it always has. What's your name? I should lie. Should give him something fake. Instead, I hear myself answer, Emma, Emma Sterling. He smiles. It's the smile of a man who's just won something, though I don't understand what game we're playing. Thank you, Emma Sterling. I won't forget this. His men help him up. They move toward the door, and I think that's it. One strange night in a series of strange nights. A story I'll maybe tell someday. After enough wine, when I want to sound more interesting than I am. But then he pauses in the doorway, turns back. Someone will be in touch, he says, and it sounds like a promise and a threat and something else I can't quite name. They leave. The ER slowly comes back to life. Nurses reappear. Martinez returns to his post. The world reassembles itself into familiar patterns. But something's shifted. I feel it in my chest, in my hands, in the place where his eyes held mine. I finish my shift on autopilot, clock out at 7 a.m., step into November's cold Chicago morning with my jacket pulled tight and my backpack heavy with textbooks I'm too exhausted to read. There's a black car idling at the curb. The window rolls down and Dante Moretti sits in the back, bandaged but impeccable in a fresh suit, and he's holding a coffee, exactly how I take it, light with 2 sugars, though I never told him, though there's no way he could know. Get in, Emma Sterling. We need to talk about what you saw last night. My heart hammers against my ribs. Every self-preservation instinct I possess screams at me to run. To scream. To do all the smart things a girl like me should do when a man like him appears in her life. Instead, I hear myself ask, is that a request or a command? His smile is slow, dangerous, approving. With you, I'm not sure yet. I stand there on the sidewalk, frozen between my old life and whatever's waiting in that car. The coffee steams in his hand. The morning traffic moves around us. Chicago wakes up, oblivious. Dante leans forward, and his voice drops low enough that only I can hear it. From now on, no one touches you. Not without going through me first. I get in the car. Not because I'm brave, not because I trust him, but because standing on that sidewalk, holding my breath while Chicago wakes up around me, I realize something fundamental has already shifted. The moment I walked toward Dante Moretti in that emergency room instead of away, I made a choice. Getting in this car is just the continuation of that same choice. The next step in a direction I apparently started walking hours ago. The leather seat is soft, expensive, the kind of luxury I've only ever experienced in showrooms, never in my actual life. Dante hands me the coffee, and I take it because my hands need something to hold, and because the gesture feels strangely normal in a situation that's anything but. You take it light with 2 sugars, he says, watching me over the rim of his own cup. How did you know that? I pay attention. 3 words. They shouldn't feel like a revelation, but they do. In my 23 years, I've perfected the art of being overlooked. My professors don't know my coffee order. My roommate doesn't know my middle name. I've structured my entire existence around being unmemorable, and this man, this dangerous, impossible man, noticed how I take my coffee after one encounter in an emergency room at 3 in the morning. The car pulls into traffic. Marco drives with the same quiet competence he'll demonstrate every morning for the next 2 weeks, though I don't know that yet. Right now, he's just a silent presence behind the wheel, another piece of Dante's carefully constructed world. Where are we going? I ask. Somewhere we can talk. That's not an answer. No, Dante agrees, it's not. He's different in daylight. Still beautiful in that dangerous way, but more human somehow. I can see the exhaustion around his eyes, the careful way he holds his left side where I bandaged him. He's in pain. Probably has been since his men helped him out of that exam room, but he wears it the way other men wear cologne. Present, but not defining. We end up at a cafe in Lincoln Park. Not the kind of place I expected, not dark or secretive or tucked away. Just a normal cafe with good pastries and better espresso, where Dante apparently has a standing table in the back corner. The owner greets him by name, brings us breakfast we didn't order, and somehow manages to make every other customer subtly understand that our corner is private without saying a word. You helped me last night, Dante says. Once we're alone with eggs neither of us is eating, and that created a problem. My stomach tightens. Here it comes. The threat. The demand. The moment where I understand exactly what kind of mistake I made. What kind of problem. The kind where people notice. He leans forward, and I catch that scent again. Expensive cologne and something darker. In my world, Emma, being noticed is the same as being targeted. The moment you touched me, the moment you chose to help instead of looking away like everyone else, you became visible. To who? To everyone who wants to hurt me. Which is a longer list than you'd think. I should be terrified. Part of me is. But another part, the part that's survived a childhood I don't talk about, that's put myself through nursing school on waitress wages and stubbornness. That part is just angry. So what? You're here to threaten me into silence. Tell me to forget I ever saw you. No, his answer is immediate, certain. I'm here to tell you that you're under my protection now. Whether you want it or not, the words land like stones in still water, rippling outward into implications I'm not ready to process. I don't need protection. Yes, he says quietly. You do. You just don't know it yet. He's right. I hate that he's right. But I'll learn that over the next 3 days as my carefully constructed normal life begins to fracture in ways I can't ignore. It starts small. A driver, Marco, appearing every morning at 7:15, exactly when I leave for my 8 o'clock anatomy lecture. Not asking, just there, holding open the door of a black sedan like it's the most natural thing in the world. I refuse the first morning, walk past him to the bus stop with my chin up and my pride intact. But he follows at a distance, and I feel his presence like a shadow I can't shake. My student housing suddenly has better security. The broken lock on the main entrance that's been broken since September is fixed overnight. The flickering hallway light on the 3rd floor, replaced. Changes so subtle I almost don't notice them, except I've lived here for 2 years and I notice everything. At the hospital, the head nurse, Patricia, who's been mentoring me since I started, pulls me aside during a break. Her face is careful, the way people's faces get when they're about to say something for your own good. Emma, honey, she starts, and I know immediately I'm not going to like what comes next. Some men collect things, beautiful things, rare things, don't become a thing. I'm not. Good. Keep it that way. Men like that, they're not for girls like us. They're not for anyone who wants a normal life. I want to argue, want to tell her she doesn't understand, that it's not like that, but I can't. Because I don't understand it either. Don't understand what this is becoming or why Dante Moretti looked at me in that emergency room and decided I was worth protecting. The wrongness of it all crystallizes on Thursday night when I come home from a double shift to find something on my doorstep. A single dead rose, petals brown and wilting, tied with white ribbon. There's a note attached in handwriting that makes my skin crawl. Moretti's little nurse. So fragile. My hands shake as I pick it up. The paper is expensive. Heavy stock. The kind of detail that suggests whoever left this has resources, has time, has intention. I think of my father. Suddenly and viscerally. Think of being 12 years old and learning that debts have consequences, that other people's choices can become your inheritance. I spent 11 years building a life where I was nobody's consequence, nobody's daughter, nobody's debt, nobody's target, and in one night, in one choice to help instead of hide, I've made myself visible again. I try to handle it alone. Report it to campus security like a good citizen, like someone who believes systems work and authorities help. Officer Chen takes my statement with bored efficiency, typing with 2 fingers while I describe the rose, the note, the feeling of being watched. He promises to increase patrols, promises to look into it. His promises sound like static. What I don't see is him making a phone call the moment I leave. Don't see him photographing my report and sending it to a number he's been paid very well to notify about anything involving Emma Sterling. Don't see the money that exchanges hands or the way information moves through Chicago like water finding cracks. I find out about all of that later, when Dante shows me the receipts. He appears at my door that night, not at the curb, not sending Marco, standing in my 3rd floor hallway himself, which somehow feels more significant than anything else. Like the distance he's closed isn't just physical, but something else entirely. You tried to be brave, he says, and there's something almost tender beneath the disappointment. Brave gets you killed. Emma, smart keeps you breathing. He shows me everything, the police report, already in his possession, Officer Chen's bank records, with deposits that don't match a campus security salary, the phone logs, the paper trail that proves what I've been trying not to believe, that the world I thought was neutral is actually bought and paid for. Everyone has a price, Dante says. Your problem is you keep expecting the world to be fair. I want to argue. Want to defend my naive faith in systems and procedures and doing things the right way. But the evidence is sitting on my cheap IKEA coffee table, and I can't argue with bank statements. What do you want from me? I finally ask. I want you to stop trying to handle this alone. He steps closer, and I catch that scent again. Expensive cologne and gunpowder and something that might just be danger made physical. I want you to accept that someone is using you to get to me. And the only way you survive that is by letting me protect you. With conditions. Always with conditions, he agrees. Nothing in my world is free. My pride wars with my survival instinct. I think of that dead rose. Think of the note. Think of being 12 and powerless and learning that sometimes being brave is just another word for being stupid. What are your conditions? You tell me everywhere you go. You don't lie to me. And you trust that I'm the monster who wants to keep you alive? The words settle between us, heavy with implications I'm not ready to examine. His phone buzzes, and I watch his expression harden as he reads the screen. Then he turns it toward me. It's a photo of me from this morning. Walking across campus toward the library, my backpack heavy, my face tired. But that's not what makes my blood freeze. It's the timestamp, the angle. This wasn't taken from the street or across the quad. This was taken from inside my sociology classroom, through the window, by someone who knew exactly where I'd be. Below it, 3 words in that same expensive handwriting. You were chosen as a message. My carefully constructed normal life doesn't just crack, it shatters completely, and Dante Moretti is standing in the wreckage with a blueprint for something new. Within 48 hours, I'm no longer living in student housing. Within 48 hours, every possession I own has been relocated to a high-rise apartment in River North, with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the Chicago skyline that costs more per month than I've made in my entire life. Dante orchestrates it with the same methodical precision I imagine he applies to everything, efficient, thorough, and somehow gentle, despite the absolute dismantling of my autonomy. He doesn't ask permission, but he also doesn't force. There's a difference I'm learning to recognize. You'll be safer here, he tells me, standing in what's now apparently my living room, hands in his pockets like he's discussing the weather. The building has security. The neighbors don't ask questions. And you're 12 floors up, which matters more than you'd think. I can't afford this. You're not paying for it. That's not better. He looks at me then, really looks, and I see something in his expression I didn't expect. Not impatience or annoyance at my resistance, but something closer to understanding. Like he knows exactly how much this costs me, and he's counting that price alongside the rent. Emma, someone photographed you from inside your classroom. They know your schedule. They know where you sleep. This isn't about pride anymore. He's right. I hate that he's right. But the dead rose is still sitting in an evidence bag on my old kitchen counter, and the photo is burned into my memory. Still, accepting this apartment feels like accepting something larger, a redefinition of who I am and what my life means. Why me? I ask. The question that's been building since that first morning in his car. Why am I worth all this trouble? Dante is quiet for a long moment. Outside, Chicago glitters in the afternoon light, oblivious and beautiful. I don't know yet, he finally says. And the honesty of it is somehow more unsettling than any lie would be. But I decided you were mine to protect, and I keep my promises. The possessiveness in that statement should alarm me. Instead, it settles somewhere in my chest, warm and dangerous and utterly foreign. No one has ever decided I was worth protecting before. Not my father, who gambled away my childhood. Not the system that was supposed to keep children safe. I've been my own protection for so long that having someone else volunteer for the job feels like learning a new language. The next few days pass in a strange suspension of reality. I go to class with Marco trailing at a respectful distance. I work my shifts at St. Catherine's, and the nurses who used to chat with me now find reasons to be elsewhere. I'm not invisible anymore. I'm marked. Dante Moretti's girl, whatever that means. The isolation should hurt more than it does, but truthfully, I've always been alone. Now I'm just alone in a more obvious way. Thursday comes wet and cold. Typical November weather that makes Chicago feel hostile. I'm reviewing case studies in my new apartment. Still can't think of it as mine. When Marco appears at the door, his face is different. Harder. Mr. Moretti needs you to see something. What kind of something? The kind you need to see. We drive to the warehouse district near the port, an area I've never had reason to visit. The buildings here are hulking and industrial, the kind of structures that have stories trapped in their steel bones. Inside, the space is cavernous and cold, smelling of lake water and something metallic I try not to identify. Dante is there with 4 other men, all of them carrying that same controlled violence I've learned to recognize. And on the floor, zip-tied and bleeding from his mouth, is Officer Chen from campus security, the man who took my report, who promised to help, who sold that information to whoever's targeting me for the price of a decent vacation. My stomach lurches. "Tell her," Dante says quietly, his voice carrying despite the gentleness. Chen talks. The story spills out in gasps and whimpers, how he was approached 2 months ago, how easy the money was, how he was just supposed to report on one nursing student, just pass along her schedule, her movements, nothing violent. He didn't know why, didn't ask. The money was good, and asking questions in Chicago can be bad for your health. The name he gives makes my blood turn to ice. Salvatelli. I know that name. Know it from my childhood. From whispered conversations I wasn't supposed to hear. From the nightmares I've spent 11 years trying to forget. Salvatelli was the man my father owed money to before he disappeared. The man whose collectors came to our house when I was 15, who looked at me with eyes that suggested debts could be paid in more than one currency. I thought that debt died with my father's disappearance. Apparently, I thought wrong. Dante sends me back to the car before things get uglier, but I've already seen enough. Already understood what I've been trying not to believe. I'm not accidentally caught in something dangerous. I'm actively part of it. A playing piece my father placed on the board years ago, still in play long after he abandoned the game. Marco drives me back in silence. I watch Chicago pass by the windows, the city I've lived in for 4 years, the place I thought I understood, and realize I've been navigating it blind. All those normal streets, normal buildings, normal people. Underneath, there's been this whole other world, and I've been part of it without knowing. That night, Dante comes to the apartment, not summoning me to him, but coming to me. The distinction feels important. He's showered, changed, and there's no blood on his hands, but I know what he's capable of now. Know what protection actually looks like in his world. Your father, he starts, settling into the chair across from my couch. What do you know about why he disappeared? Not much. He had gambling debts. One day I came home and he was gone. There was a note saying he'd fixed everything, that I was safe, and you believed him. It's not a question, but I answer anyway. I was 16. I wanted to believe him. Dante nods slowly, processing. His phone buzzes, and I watch him read whatever message just arrived. His expression shifts. Surprise, then calculation, then something that might be anger but colder. Emma, your father didn't just have gambling debts. He had information. What kind of information? The valuable kind. Names, numbers, evidence of who was paying who, which cops were dirty, which politicians were bought. He stole it from Vitelli's predecessor and disappeared with it. The pieces click together in my mind, forming a picture I don't want to see. My father didn't disappear out of shame or fear. He disappeared with leverage, with something valuable enough to buy his safety. And he left me behind as what? Insurance? A loose thread. A way back if he ever needed one. Vitelli thinks I know where my father is. I say slowly, understanding blooming like frost. Or he thinks threatening you will bring your father out of hiding. Either way, you were never going to escape this. You were marked the day you were born. The words should devastate me. Should make me angry or scared or hopeless. Instead, I feel something else. Clarity, maybe. Relief at finally understanding why my life has always felt like waiting for something terrible. So what happens now? Now we figure out what your father stole and where he is. Before Vitelli decides you're more useful as a message than as bait, Dante's phone lights up again, and this time when he looks at the screen, I see fear. actual fear, which is more terrifying than anything else because men like him aren't supposed to be afraid. He turns the phone toward me. It's a video. Short. 10 seconds, maybe. Security footage from what looks like a parking garage. A young man getting into his car, unaware of the camera, unaware he's being watched. He has my eyes, my father's nose. The same stubborn set to his jaw that I see in the mirror every morning. My half-brother, Tommy. From my father's second family, the one he started somewhere in Wisconsin after he left Chicago. The family I've kept separate, protected, hidden from all of this. The text below the video is simple. Found him. TikTok, Emma. I don't sleep that night. Can't. Every time I close my eyes, I see Tommy's face in that parking garage footage, oblivious, innocent, going about his normal college life while predators circle. He doesn't know about our father's sins. Doesn't know he's suddenly become collateral in a war that started before he was born. I've kept him separate for 7 years. Sent him money when I could scrape it together. Always from prepaid cards with no return address. Called on his birthday from burner phones. Built an entire architecture of distance designed to protect him from the wreckage of our father's choices. And in 10 seconds of surveillance footage, Salvatelli has torn down every wall I constructed. Dante stays. Doesn't ask permission. Just settles into the chair by the window like he's keeping watch, at which I suppose he is. Around 4 when I finally give up on sleep and move to the kitchen, he's there too, making coffee with the easy competence of someone who spent plenty of nights awake. How old is he? Dante asks, handing me a mug. 19. Sophomore at UW-Madison. Engineering major. He's smart. Dante. Really smart. He got a full scholarship. And he's never been in trouble. And he doesn't deserve this. None of us deserve what we get, Dante says quietly. We just deal with what arrives. The pragmatism should frustrate me, but I'm too exhausted for anger. Instead, I ask the question that's been building since I saw that footage. You knew, didn't you? Before that night in the hospital. You knew someone was moving against you. His pause tells me everything. I knew someone was making inquiries, asking questions about my operations, my vulnerabilities. I didn't know it would be you until I saw you. So I'm just collateral. No. The word is sharp, immediate. You were supposed to be collateral. Then you walked toward me instead of away. And everything changed. Changed how? He looks at me over his coffee. And I see something in his expression I haven't seen before. Uncertainty. Maybe. Like he's trying to explain something he doesn't fully understand himself. I've been in this life for 15 years. Emma? Since I was 22 and my father died and I inherited an empire I didn't want but couldn't refuse. In that time, I've learned to read people. What they want, what they fear, what they'll do when pressed. You should have been terrified. Should have looked away. Every survival instinct you possess should have told you to be invisible. But I didn't. No. You walked straight toward danger and helped because it was the right thing to do. Because someone was bleeding and you knew how to fix it. He sets his mug down, and his hands are steady, but his voice isn't. I haven't met many people who choose right over safe. The words settle between us, heavy with implications neither of us is ready to fully examine. Outside, Chicago begins its slow wake to Friday morning, and I make a decision. I need to see him, Tommy. I need to warn him. No, that's not negotiable. Emma, the moment you make contact, you confirm Vitelli's intelligence. Right now, he suspects. If you reach out, you prove the connection. So what? I just let him be bait and hope your people get there first. Yes. The answer is so baldly pragmatic that I want to scream. Want to throw my coffee mug at his beautiful, infuriating face. Want to be anywhere but in this apartment that isn't mine. Drinking coffee with a man who's somehow become the architect of my entire existence in less than a week. Instead, I do something I've never done with anyone. I tell the truth. When I was 12, my father's collectors came to the house. 3 men who smelled like cigarettes and cologne. They didn't hurt me, not then, but they made it clear they could. Made me understand that my body was currency, that debts could be paid in ways that didn't involve money. Dante's expression doesn't change, but something happens behind his eyes. A hardening, a fury held in check by will alone. One of them touched my face, told me I'd be pretty in a few years, said it like he was planning to collect on that potential. I looked down at my hands, at the coffee I'm no longer drinking. My father made a deal the next day. Whatever he promised, it bought me 3 years of safety. Then he disappeared, and I thought I was free. You've never been free, Dante says, and it's not cruel, just honest. None of us are. We're all paying for someone else's choices. Is that supposed to comfort me? No. It's supposed to help you understand why I make the decisions I make. He stands, moves to the window, looks out at the city like he's searching for answers in the skyline. When he turns back, there's something different in his posture. A decision made. 3 rules, he says. You follow them, and we both survive this. Break them, and people die. What are your rules? You tell me everything. Where you go, who you see, what you're thinking. No lies, no omissions, no trying to protect me from information I need. I nod. That seems reasonable, even if it terrifies me. You stay where I can protect you. That doesn't mean locked in this apartment, but it means Marco or someone like him is always close. And the 3rd rule? You trust that I'm the best monster available. There are worse things in Chicago than me, Emma, much worse. And some of them want to hurt you specifically to hurt me. The possessiveness in that statement should alarm me. Should trigger every self-preservation instinct I've honed over 11 years of keeping myself safe. Instead, it settles somewhere in my chest, warm and terrifying and utterly foreign. I have a rule too, I tell him. Only one. Just one. You stop lying by omission. If my life is the bargaining chip, I deserve to know the game. He considers this, and I watch him calculate the cost of honesty versus the benefit of my cooperation. Finally, he nods. Deal. Something shifts after that conversation. Not trust exactly, but maybe the foundation that trust gets built on. That night, Friday night, which should find me studying or working but instead finds me in Dante's actual world, he takes me to dinner. Not as a prisoner, not as someone under protection, as something else I can't quite name. The restaurant is the kind of place I've walked past 1,000 times without ever imagining I'd enter. Intimate, expensive, the sort of establishment where the host knows Dante by name and has a table always ready, always private. We sit in a corner that feels carved out of the world, and for the first time since that night in the hospital, we're just 2 people sharing a meal. Tell me about nursing, he says. Why that? Control, I answer honestly. When everything else in your life is chaos. Medicine is rules. Anatomy, pharmacology, procedures, they work the same way every time. If you learn them, if you're good enough, you can fix things. Not everything. No, I agree. But enough. Enough to matter. He tells me about his father, about inheriting an empire at 25, about the weight of being responsible for 1,000 families who depend on Moretti protection. It's not what I expected, not bragging or justification, but something closer to confession, like he's as trapped by his inheritance as I am by mine. Did you want this? I ask. The life, the power, all of it. No, but wanting doesn't matter much in our world. Duty matters, loyalty. Keeping your word even when it costs you everything. When he reaches across the table to touch my hand, I don't pull away. It's deliberate. This touch. Not medical necessity or accident, but choice. His hand is warm, his fingers gentle, and the intimacy of it stuns us both into momentary silence. I'm going to keep you alive, he says quietly, whatever it costs. Why? Because you walked toward me. It's not a complete answer, but it's enough for now. Enough to let myself lean into this strange connection, this dangerous safety he's offering. That night, back in the apartment, I do something I haven't done since childhood. I fall asleep without checking the locks 3 times, without the nightlight, without the anxiety that's been my constant companion for 11 years. When I wake around 3 a.m., Dante is sitting in the chair by my window, just watching, making sure I'm safe. Can't sleep. I whisper. Not when you're vulnerable. I should find that invasive, possessive, controlling. Instead, I feel seen in a way I've never experienced. Safe in a way that has nothing to do with locks or security systems and everything to do with another human deciding you're worth protecting. Thank you, I tell him. For what? for staying. In the morning, there's a small velvet box on my nightstand. Inside is a pendant, a silver St. Christopher medal, worn and beautiful. The patron saint of travelers and protection. There's no note, Tom, but I don't need one. I understand the language of symbols now. Understand that in Dante's world, gifts mean promises. I put it on. Feel the weight of it settle against my collarbone. Feel like maybe, for the first time in my life, I'm not facing the world entirely alone. My phone buzzes while I'm making coffee. Unknown number, I should delete it, should follow the rules. Instead, I open it. It's a photo of the St. Christopher medal, but it's not on my neck. It's lying on a concrete floor in a puddle of what looks horribly like blood. Below it, 3 words that make my stomach drop. Not all prayers. The photo breaks something open inside me that I've kept sealed with scar tissue and sheer will for 11 years. That concrete floor, I know it. Know the crack in the corner that looks like a river. Know the way water seeps through the foundation when it rains, creating pools that reflect the single bare bulb hanging from exposed pipes. That's the basement of my childhood home on the south side. The house we lost when my father's gambling became everyone's problem. The house where collectors came when debts went unpaid. The house where I learned that bodies are currency. I'm standing in Dante's kitchen because somehow in the past week it's become his kitchen too, his presence woven into the fabric of this apartment, and the phone trembles in my hands. The St. Christopher medal feels suddenly heavy against my collarbone. No longer a promise of protection, but a reminder of how fragile safety really is. Emma, I didn't hear him come in. Didn't hear anything over the roaring in my ears. But he's there now, taking the phone from my shaking hands, studying the image with those dark, calculating eyes that miss nothing. You know this place. It's not a question. He reads me like I'm written in a language only he speaks. It's my old house. Where I grew up. Where my father. I can't finish the sentence, but I don't need to. Dante understands the grammar of trauma, the way some stories are too heavy for complete sentences. He makes 3 phone calls in rapid Italian, his voice clipped and efficient. Within minutes, Marco and 2 others I don't recognize arrive at the apartment. They huddle in the living room, speaking in low, urgent tones while I stand frozen in the kitchen, staring at nothing. When Dante returns to me, there's something different in his expression. Something that looks almost like gentleness. If men like him are capable of gentleness. Tell me, he says. Tell me what happened in that house. And maybe it's exhaustion. Maybe it's fear for Tommy. Maybe it's the way Dante looks at me like I'm not broken, just waiting to be understood. Whatever the reason, the story comes out in fragments. Pieces of a past I've spent over a decade trying to forget. I was 12 when the collectors first came. My father owed money, always owed money, but this time the amount had grown beyond numbers that made sense. 20,000, 50, 100. The interest compounded faster than he could gamble his way out of it. And eventually the men who came weren't polite anymore. They were 3 of them that first time. Suits that didn't quite fit right. Cologne that couldn't quite mask the smell of cigarettes and something sharper. Violence, maybe, or just the potential for it. They sat in our living room like they owned it, which in a way they did, and explained the math to my father in terms even a 12-year-old could understand. You don't have the money, the one in charge said. I never learned his name, just remember his voice, smooth as oil, but you have other assets. The way he looked at me when he said assets made my skin crawl. My father promised them money, swore he had a plan. They gave him a week. When they came back, the debt had grown and his promises had run out. That's when they took him to the basement. That's when I learned what concrete sounds like when someone's face hits it. What my father's voice sounds like begging. I was 15 the next time they came. I tell Dante, and my voice sounds distant, like it belongs to someone else. My father was gone. Just disappeared one day with a note saying he'd fixed everything. They didn't believe me when I said I didn't know where he was. Dante's hands have formed fists, but his voice stays gentle. What did they do? They searched the house, tore it apart looking for money, documents, anything valuable. And then the man in charge, different from before, someone new, he looked at me and said I'd gotten pretty, said I could pay down the debt in installments if I wanted. I'm shaking now, the memory vivid as yesterday despite the years I've put between then and now. Dante moves closer, not touching but present, solid, real. I ran, grabbed what I could and just ran. Spent that night in a hospital waiting room pretending I was visiting someone. A nurse found me around 3 a.m. Figured out I had nowhere to go. She helped me contact social services, and they placed me in foster care. I've been Emma Sterling, orphan with a gambling addict father who disappeared ever since. But you weren't an orphan, Dante says quietly. No, my father had another family by then. Wife, son, Tommy. I found out about them when I was 17, tracked them down through old mail I'd saved, but I never made contact, never let them know I existed. I thought keeping them separate would keep them safe. Dante processes this, and I watch him fit pieces together, building a picture that explains why Sal Vitelli would target me now. 11 years after my father vanished. Your father didn't just run, Dante says. He stole something first. Something valuable enough to buy his safety and his new life. What did he steal? That's what we need to find out. His team works through the night. I watch them from the couch, wrapped in a blanket that smells like expensive detergent, as they track down records that should be impossible to access. Property transfers, bank statements, police reports from 11 years ago that were conveniently misfiled. They build a timeline of my father's last days in Chicago with the kind of thoroughness that should terrify me, but instead just makes me tired. By dawn, they have an answer. My father didn't just owe money to Vitelli's predecessor, he worked for him. Low-level stuff at first, running numbers, collecting debts. But he was smart, good with details, and eventually they trusted him with record-keeping. The ledgers. The real books that showed who was paying whom, which cops were on the take, which politicians had their hands out. He copied everything. Then he took $500,000 in cash from a collection run and vanished with both the money and the evidence of an entire criminal empire's corruption. He was going to use it as leverage, Dante explains. Insurance so they'd leave him alone. Leave you alone. But Vitelli's predecessor died before your father could negotiate, and Vitelli inherited a mess. Missing money, missing records, and a loose end in the form of a daughter left behind. So Vitelli's been waiting, I say, understanding blooming cold and clear, waiting for me to lead him to my father, or waiting for my father to surface to protect me. Yes. And Tommy is pressure. If threatening you doesn't work, hurting him will. The cruelty of it is breathtaking. My father's sin, Tommy's innocence, my desperate attempt to stay invisible, none of it matters. We're all just pieces in a game that started before we were old enough to understand the rules. I make a terrible decision then. The kind of choice that feels right in your chest even when your brain screams warnings. I wait until Dante is in the other room, until Marco is distracted by his phone, until no one is watching. Then I grab my coat and my keys and I run. I make it to the parking garage before Marco catches up. Make it halfway to my car before strong hands grab my shoulders. Emma, stop. I have to warn him. I'm crying now, ugly, desperate tears. I have to tell Tommy to run, to hide, to be anywhere but where Vitelli can find him. If you go to him, you confirm everything Vitelli suspects. You paint a target on his back. He already has a target on his back. Marco's grip is gentle but immovable. He looks at me with something like pity, and I hate it. Hate being the girl who needs protection, needs saving, needs other people to make choices for her safety. Please, I whisper. He's 19. He's just a kid. He doesn't deserve this. No, Marco agrees. He doesn't. But running to him won't save him. It'll just get you both killed. He's right. I know he's right. But knowing doesn't stop me from fighting, from trying to break free, from making it 3 more steps before exhaustion and desperation drag me down to my knees on the concrete floor of the parking garage. That's where Dante finds me. Kneeling. Sobbing. Broken in a way I haven't let myself be since I was 16 years old, and learned that survival means swallowing your feelings until they fossilize. He doesn't speak. Just kneels beside me, pulls me against his chest, and lets me fall apart. His heart beats steady against my ear, and I focus on that rhythm, use it to anchor myself back to something resembling control. I'm sorry. I finally manage. I can't let him get hurt because of me. I know, Dante says quietly. But you're going to have to trust me, Emma. Trust that I can protect him better than you running to him scared. How? Because I'm already 3 steps ahead of Vitelli. Because my people are already watching your brother. Because the moment Vitelli made his move, this stopped being about debt and started being about principle. I pull back enough to look at him, to search his face for lies or false promises. All I see is certainty. What principle? No one threatens what's mine. The possessiveness should grate, should trigger every hard-won independence I've built. Instead, it settles into my bones like coming home. My phone buzzes. Both our phones buzz. Marco's phone. Every device in a 10-foot radius lights up simultaneously with the same incoming video call. Dante answers his phone, and Sal Vitelli's face fills the screen. He's older than I expected. 60, maybe. With silver hair and eyes that have seen too much and regretted nothing. Behind him, tied to a chair in what looks like a warehouse, is Tommy. His face is bruised. There's blood at the corner of his mouth. But his eyes are terrified and confused and looking for answers I can't give him. "Hello, Emma," Vitelli says, his voice pleasant, conversational, like we're discussing the weather. "I think we need to renegotiate your father's debt. You have 72 hours to bring me what he stole, or your brother starts paying interest." "I don't know where he is." My voice cracks. "I don't know where he hid anything." "Then I suggest you figure it out quickly." Tommy tries to speak, but someone off camera hits him. The sound makes me flinch. "Don't hurt him. I'm begging now. Pride abandoned. Please, he has nothing to do with this." "Neither did you. Once," Vitelli says. "But here we are. 72 hours. Emma." "Oh, and Emma?" "I'm sending proof that I'm serious." The call ends. 30 seconds later, my phone buzzes with a video. I don't want to watch it. Don't want to see what proof looks like in Vitelli's world. But Dante takes the phone from my shaking hands and plays it anyway. It's Tommy, and he's screaming. I expect Dante to explode, to rage at me for trying to run, for breaking his rules, for creating this catastrophe through my desperate attempt to protect someone I love. Instead, he goes terrifyingly quiet. The silence is worse than shouting, worse than anger. It's the quiet of a predator calculating, of a chess master seeing 50 moves ahead while I'm still trying to understand the board. He watches the video once, just once. Tommy's screams echo in the parking garage. And then Dante closes the phone with a precision that feels like violence contained. "Marco, take her upstairs." "Dante, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." "Upstairs. Now." His voice isn't loud. Doesn't need to be. The authority in it is absolute. And I find myself moving before I've consciously decided to obey. Marco's hand on my elbow is gentle, but I feel the steel underneath. I'm being removed from the situation, and there's nothing I can do about it. Back in the apartment, I pace. Wear a path in the expensive hardwood while Marco stands sentinel by the door, his face carefully neutral. Through the windows, Chicago moves through its Friday morning routines, people going to work, living normal lives, unaware that somewhere in this city a 19-year-old boy is paying for sins he didn't commit. My phone buzzes. Text from Dante. "Stay put. Don't call anyone. Don't do anything. I'm handling this. Handling this. Like Tommy is a problem to be solved. A variable in an equation. The clinical coldness of it makes me want to scream. But I'm learning that Dante's coldness isn't lack of feeling. It's an excess of it, frozen into something manageable. He cares too much, so he feels nothing at all. It's a survival mechanism I recognize because I've used it myself. Hours pass. 2, 4, 6. Marco orders food I can't eat. Makes coffee I don't drink. Answers his phone in monosyllables while I try to piece together what's happening from his side of the conversation. It's like listening to half of a symphony. I know something significant is occurring, but I can't grasp the melody. Finally, as afternoon bleeds into evening, Dante returns. He looks different. Not physically. His suit is still immaculate. His hair still perfect. But there's something in his eyes that wasn't there before. Something harder. More final. He's made decisions. And I understand instinctively that people have died because of them. Is Tommy alive? It's the only question that matters. Everything else is secondary. Yes. The relief nearly drops me. I sink onto the couch, and Dante sits across from me in that chair he seems to favor, the one that lets him watch both the door and the windows, always calculating angles, always aware of exits. "I need you to understand something," he says, and his voice is different too. Educational. Like he's teaching me the fundamentals of a language I need to survive. Vitelli made a move against me using you and your brother. If I respond with anything less than overwhelming force, Every small-time operator in Chicago will think I've gone soft. Your brother's life isn't the only one at stake here. What do you mean? I protect over 300 families, Emma. Legitimate businesses that pay for Moretti's security. Workers who depend on those businesses. Children who eat because their fathers work in operations I control. If I look weak, if I let someone take what's mine without consequences, all of those people become vulnerable. The math is brutal. One innocent boy weighed against hundreds of others. The utilitarian calculus of organized crime, where morality is measured in body counts and power is the only currency that matters. So what are you going to do? What I have to... He shows me then. Pulls out his tablet and displays a building schematic, Vitelli's primary warehouse in Bridgeport, guard rotations, security systems, weak points. He's been planning this for hours, assembling a response with the same methodical care I imagine he applies to legitimate business deals. We go in at dawn, he explains. 6 teams. Tommy is in the East Wing, 3rd floor. We extract him first, secure the exits, and then... He doesn't finish, but he doesn't need to. I understand what "and then" means. It means Vitelli and everyone loyal to him won't walk out of that building. It means Dante is about to go to war, and war always has casualties. How many people will die? The question hangs between us, heavy with implications neither of us wants to fully examine. Dante looks at me, and I see him calculate whether to lie, to protect me from the arithmetic of violence. He chooses truth. 17, maybe 20. Vitelli has guards who are just doing a job. But they made a choice when they took that job, and choices have consequences. They might have families? They do. And those families will be compensated. I'm not a monster, Emma. I'm just practical. But he is a monster. We both know it. The difference is that he's my monster, the one who's kept his word, who's protected me when he could have just as easily used me. There are worse monsters in Chicago. Vitelli proved that when he put his hands on a 19-year-old boy who never hurt anyone. I want to watch... Dante's expression shifts. Surprise, maybe, or concern. No. You said I deserve to know the game. This is the game. I want to watch what protection costs. He studies me for a long moment, and I hold his gaze. I'm done being sheltered from the reality of his world, done pretending that safety comes clean and free. If Tommy lives because 17 other people die, I need to witness that exchange, need to understand what it means to be protected by someone like Dante Moretti. You'll stay with Marco, he finally says, in a secure location. You can watch the drone feed, but you don't come near the warehouse. Okay. That night, I don't sleep. Marco drives me to a building in the Loop, another safe house, another temporary fortress. The room has monitors, communication equipment, and a view of absolutely nothing. Dante's lieutenant, a man named Vincent with kind eyes and killer's hands, sets up the drone feed. Dawn comes cold and gray. On the screen, I watch 6 vehicles approach the warehouse from different angles. Watch Dante's teams move with military precision, clearing perimeter guards with suppressed weapons and calculated efficiency. They breach the building at exactly 5:47 a.m., and the operation unfolds like choreography. Brutal, beautiful, terrifying. I watch Dante clear rooms with mechanical grace. Watch him move through violence like it's another language he speaks fluently. He's not cruel about it, not sadistic, just efficient. Every action serves a purpose. Every shot finds its target. Within 12 minutes, his team has secured Tommy and is moving him toward extraction. The drone feed shows Tommy stumbling between 2 of Dante's men, bloodied but mobile, alive. I'm crying without realizing it, relief and horror mixing into something I don't have words for. Then the feed switches to the top floor, Vitelli's office. Dante enters alone, and I watch him confront the man who's haunted my family for decades. I can't hear the conversation, but I see Vitelli's fear, see him reaching for something, money, maybe, or documents, see him offering things, making deals, promising information. Dante shakes his head once, turns to leave. And that's when I understand. He's not going to kill Vitelli himself. He's going to let Vitelli's own men handle it, the ones Dante's already made deals with, the ones who've decided their loyalty can be purchased. It's crueler somehow, watching a man be betrayed by people he trusted, watching him realize that in this world, everyone has a price. The news reports it as a gang conflict by 8 a.m. Multiple casualties. No suspects. Vitelli's name isn't mentioned in early reports, but it will be eventually. And Dante's name never appears at all. It never does. That's what real power looks like. The ability to reshape reality itself. Tommy is in a hospital by 9 a.m., treated under a false name, his injuries explained as a car accident. I want to go to him, but Marco tells me it's not safe yet. Not until they're sure Vitelli's organization has completely collapsed. So I wait in the safe house, watching news coverage that tells a sanitized version of the violence I witnessed on those drone feeds. Dante returns around noon. There's no blood on him. He's showered somewhere, changed clothes. But I can see it anyway. Can see the weight of what he's done in the set of his shoulders, in the way he moves like gravity has increased. Tommy's safe, he says. He's scared and confused, but physically he'll heal. And Vitelli? Dead. His own people turned on him. Apparently, he'd been skimming from their operations. They used our attack as an opportunity. It's a lie, or at least a strategic version of the truth. Dante orchestrated the betrayal, bought the loyalty that made it possible, but he's giving me plausible deniability. A story I can tell myself that makes this slightly more bearable. How many? I ask, needing to know the final count. 17. Exactly what he predicted. The precision is somehow more disturbing than if the number had been higher or lower. It means he calculated this perfectly, knew exactly what victory would cost, and decided it was worth paying. Thank you, I whisper, for saving him. Emma. He moves closer, and I let him. Let him pull me against his chest, let myself feel the solid reality of him. He kept his word. 17 people are dead, and my brother is alive. And I don't know how to carry the weight of that arithmetic. You did this because of me. I did this because someone threatened what's mine. The possessiveness should alarm me, should trigger every independence I fought for. Instead, I feel safe in a way that has nothing to do with locks or guards and everything to do with being claimed by someone dangerous enough to keep his promises. We stay like that for a long time. His heart beats steady against my ear, and I focus on that rhythm, use it to ground myself in a reality that's become unrecognizable. Then both our phones buzz. Dante checks his first, and I watch his expression harden into something that might be fear if men like him admitted to fear. He shows me the screen without speaking. It's from the FBI, Special Agent Catherine Walsh. They have security footage from Vitelli's warehouse. They have Dante entering, weapon drawn. They have enough to indict him for murder, racketeering, conspiracy, and 24 other charges that add up to life in prison. The message is clear: turn yourself in, or they'll come for everyone you love, starting with the nurse who treated you that first night. I read it twice before the implications fully land. I'm the only witness who can corroborate that Dante was injured before he entered that building, that his actions were defensive rather than premeditated murder. I'm also the only one who can destroy him by telling the truth about everything I've seen, everything I know. Dante looks at me, and in his eyes I see a question he's not asking out loud. What are you going to do? For the first time since this began, the power is mine. His freedom, his life, his entire empire, balanced against my conscience, my truth, my choice. Emma, he says quietly, whatever you decide, I understand, but I don't think he does. Doesn't understand that he spent the past week teaching me his language, showing me his world, making me complicit in his arithmetic. He saved my brother, kept his word, proved that in a world of people who promise safety and deliver nothing, he's the one who actually follows through. I should feel trapped, should feel manipulated. Instead, I feel something else entirely. The terrible, intoxicating weight of agency, of choice, of power that's actually mine. We need to talk, I tell him, about what happens next. I spend Saturday doing something I haven't done in years. I think about my father as a complete person rather than just the source of my trauma. Dante gives me space, which feels significant. He doesn't hover or pressure or try to influence my decision about the FBI. He just leaves me with Marco in the safe house and goes to handle whatever needs handling in the aftermath of yesterday's violence. The absence of his presence is somehow louder than if he'd stayed. I ask Marco to take me to a storage unit in Pilsen. It's one of those anonymous places with orange doors and combination locks, where people keep the pieces of their past they can't quite throw away, but can't bear to live with either. I've been paying $40 a month for 7 years to keep 3 boxes of my father's belongings sealed away from my present. Marco waits by the car while I sit on the concrete floor surrounded by the archaeology of abandonment. Old mail, photographs of a family that doesn't exist anymore, my father's handwriting on utility bills and birthday cards he never sent. I'm looking for the ledger Vitelli wanted so desperately, but I'm also looking for something else. Evidence that the man who left me behind loved me enough for it to matter. I find the ledger hidden inside a hollowed-out copy of Moby Dick. It's smaller than I expected. Just a leather-bound notebook filled with names, dates, and numbers written in my father's neat accountant's hand. This is what $500,000 and 11 years of fear looks like. Pages of ink that prove Chicago's justice system is exactly as corrupt as everyone suspects. But it's the letter tucked inside the front cover that breaks me. Emma, if you're reading this, I'm either dead or you've grown up enough to need answers. I'm sorry doesn't cover it. I'm sorry doesn't even begin. But I need you to understand that everything I did, every terrible choice, every cowardly act, I did trying to protect you. The men I worked for, they don't let people leave. They especially don't let people leave with evidence of their crimes. But I couldn't stay, Em. Couldn't keep doing what they asked. Couldn't let you grow up in that world. So I stole insurance. Money and names and proof. Enough to make them leave us alone. I know I failed you. Know you paid for my choices in ways I'll never fully understand. But I made them give you a clean break. No debt, no obligation, free. That was the deal I negotiated. My silence for your safety. If you're reading this now, it means something went wrong. It means they came for you anyway. And I'm so sorry. The ledger is your leverage. Use it. Burn them all if you have to. Just survive, baby girl. That's all I ever wanted for you. To survive and be free. I love you more than I knew how to show. I'm sorry I was never the father you deserved. But you were always the best thing I ever made. Dad, I read it 3 times. Then a 4th. Each time, the words rearranged themselves into a slightly different story. Not redemption, exactly. My father's choices were still selfish, still catastrophic. But they were also made by a man who loved me the only way he knew how. Badly, inadequately, but genuinely. The ledger in my hands isn't just evidence. It's the last gift my father gave me before disappearing. The final proof that I mattered to him, even if he expressed that mattering through absence rather than presence. I take photos of every page with my phone. Then I sit there on the concrete floor and I make a decision that surprises everyone, including myself. Back at the apartment, because I've started thinking of it as the apartment rather than Dante's apartment or the safe house, I call the number Agent Walsh left in her message. She answers on the 2nd ring, her voice professional and wary. Ms. Sterling, I was hoping to hear from you. I want to meet alone. Just you and me. There's a pause. I can practically hear her calculating whether this is a trap, whether Dante has coached me on what to say. When? She finally asks. Today, Lincoln Park. The coffee shop on Clark. 1 hour. Emma, if this is some kind of setup, it's not. I have something you want. But I need guarantees first. Another pause. Longer this time. I'll be there. I don't tell Dante where I'm going. Don't ask permission. Just tell Marco I need air, need to walk, need to think. He looks at me with those knowing eyes and nods slowly, like he understands what I'm really saying. He trails me at a distance, far enough to give me the illusion of autonomy, close enough to intervene if things go wrong. The coffee shop is busy with Saturday afternoon traffic. Agent Catherine Walsh sits in the corner, exactly where I told her to sit, wearing jeans and a Northwestern sweatshirt like she's trying to blend in. She's younger than I expected from her voice, mid-30s, maybe, with tired eyes that have seen too much and still believe in justice anyway. I sit across from her and get right to the point. I have my father's ledger. Every name, every payment, every corrupt official in Vitelli's and Moretti's organizations. It's worth more than any testimony I could give about what happened yesterday. Walsh leans forward, and I see hunger in her expression. This is what she's been chasing for years. Proof, documentation, the kind of evidence that actually holds up in court. What do you want in exchange? Immunity for Dante Moretti on the murder charges. Full immunity. He walks away clean. You're asking me to let a killer go free? I'm asking you to use the information I'm giving you strategically. You want to end organized crime in Chicago? Start by cleaning up the system that protects it. Use the ledger to prosecute the cops and politicians who make this possible. Cut off the corruption at the source. Walsh studies me, and I watch her process the logic. She's a true believer, the kind of law enforcement officer who still thinks the system can work if good people fight hard enough. I'm offering her a way to believe that faith matters. Why protect him? She asks. Dante Moretti is a criminal. He's killed people. Emma. Yesterday alone. Yesterday he saved my brother's life when no one else could. When the system you represent couldn't. When campus security took bribes to look the other way and the police would have filed a report that went nowhere. My voice is shaking now, but I don't stop. You want to know why I'm protecting him? Because he's a killer who keeps his word. Because he's dangerous but predictable. Because in a world full of people who promise to help and then disappear, he's the one who actually follows through. That's worth something. That's worth more than you know. The words hang between us, and I watch Walsh absorb them. She's been doing this job long enough to understand that morality isn't binary, that sometimes the good guys fail and the bad guys keep their promises, and justice is just whatever you can negotiate. Give me the ledger, she finally says. Let me see what we're working with. I pull out my phone and show her the photos. Watch her eyes widen as she scrolls through page after page of meticulously documented corruption. Names she recognizes, judges, aldermen, police commanders, the entire infrastructure that makes organized crime possible in Chicago. This is, she stops, starts again. This is more than we hoped for. So do we have a deal? Walsh looks at me for a long moment, and I see her wrestling with ethics and pragmatism, idealism and results. Finally, she nods. I'll need the original ledger, and your testimony about what's in it and where it came from. But yes, Dante Moretti walks on the warehouse charges. I'll make it happen. Relief floods through me, but it's complicated, muddy. I've just made a deal that saves a killer and condemns dozens of others. The arithmetic is no cleaner than what Dante calculated yesterday morning, just different variables in the same brutal equation. We talk logistics. She'll need time to build cases, to coordinate with federal prosecutors, to move carefully so the targets don't scatter. She'll want to meet again. We'll need the physical ledger as evidence. I agree to everything, and then I ask the question that's been building. Why do you do this? Why keep fighting when the system is this broken? Walsh smiles, and it's sad and knowing and still somehow hopeful. Because someone has to. Because the moment we stop believing it can be better, it never will be. I leave the coffee shop feeling lighter and heavier simultaneously. I've taken control, made an active choice, used the power I inherited from my father's sins to reshape the future. It should feel triumphant. Instead, it just feels necessary, like I've finally learned to speak the language of the world I actually live in, rather than the one I wished existed. Marco is waiting half a block away. He doesn't ask where I've been or what I've done, just falls into step beside me, and we walk back toward the apartment in silence that feels almost companionable. I'm 3 blocks away when I realize I'm being followed. Not by Marco, by someone else. A black sedan that's been behind us for too long, maintaining too perfect a distance. Marco, he's already seen it, already moving, his hand inside his jacket where I know he keeps a weapon. He pulls me toward a parking garage entrance, and we're almost there when things happen too fast to track properly. A cloth over my mouth, chemical smell, darkness swallowing consciousness. I try to fight, try to remember the self-defense moves Dante's team taught me, but my body won't cooperate. The world tilts, spins, disappears. When I wake, I'm zip-tied to a chair in a warehouse that smells like rust and lake water. My head throbs, my vision swims. And across from me, also restrained and bleeding from her temple, is Agent Catherine Walsh. Standing between us, smiling with what looks like genuine regret, is Vincent, Dante's lieutenant. The man with kind eyes and killer's hands who set up my drone feed yesterday. The man who's been by Dante's side through everything. I'm sorry, Emma, he says, and he sounds like he means it, but you just became too dangerous. To both families. Dante's weakness for you was going to destroy everything we've built. I'm fixing that. He checks his watch. And the casualness of the gesture is more terrifying than anything else. He'll be here in 20 minutes to find your body. And then we'll see if mercy was worth the cost. The zip ties cut into my wrists, but the pain is distant. Background noise to the roaring clarity flooding my mind. I've spent my entire life waiting to be saved, waiting for my father to come back, waiting for the system to work, waiting for someone stronger to fix what's broken. I'm done waiting. Vincent is talking, explaining his logic with the careful reasoning of someone who genuinely believes he's making the hard but necessary choice. He's been with Dante for 12 years. Watched him build an empire on calculated violence and strategic mercy. And now he's watching that empire crack because Dante made the mistake of caring about someone expendable. You have to understand, Vincent says, crouching so we're eye level. He's changing, making decisions with his heart instead of his head. That gets people killed in our world, gets families destroyed. I've watched 3 bosses fall because they loved the wrong person at the wrong time. So you're saving him by killing me, Agent Walsh says, her voice raw but steady. That's some twisted logic. It's practical logic. Emma dies. Dante hardens again, and the organization survives. She lives, and his weakness becomes everyone's vulnerability. He's wrong, but I understand why he believes it. In Vincent's world, love is a liability. Connection is a crack in armor. The math makes sense if you've spent your whole life learning that survival means eliminating soft spots before they can be exploited. But Vincent's made one critical miscalculation. He's assumed I'm the same girl who walked into that emergency room a week ago, someone who needed saving, who waited for other people to make choices, who survived by being small and invisible and overlooked. That girl died somewhere between watching Tommy scream on a video feed and making a deal with the FBI. I'm something different now. Something harder. Something that learned Dante's language and decided to speak it myself. The zip ties are tight, but my nursing training taught me human anatomy in ways Vincent probably hasn't considered. I know where the bones in my hands can compress, where the joints can manipulate. It's going to hurt. But pain is just information, and right now I need the information that comes from freedom more than I need comfort. I start working my left thumb, pressing it against the restraint, using the edge to create pressure. Agent Walsh sees what I'm doing, and her eyes widen fractionally. She's trained for this kind of situation. FBI agents learn escape and evasion, but she's also injured, disoriented, and tied more securely than I am. She starts talking, drawing Vincent's attention, giving me cover. You really think Moretti's going to believe Emma just disappeared? Walsh asks. He'll know it was an inside job. He'll tear apart his own organization looking for who betrayed him. He will. Vincent agrees, and he'll find evidence pointing to Vitelli's remaining people, a final revenge. He'll believe it because he'll want to. Because the alternative, that his own lieutenant killed the girl he cared about, that's too painful to consider. My thumb dislocates with a sound only I can hear. The pain is white hot, but I've felt worse. I've felt the fear of being 12 years old and powerless. This is just biology, just physics. Just the mechanical process of breaking yourself enough to slip free. You're underestimating him, I say, and my voice is steadier than it should be. Dante's not weak because he cares about me. He's dangerous because he does. Vincent turns to look at me, and that's when I move. The zip tie slides off my left hand, the one with the dislocated thumb, and I'm reaching for the knife on Vincent's belt before he can process what's happening. I'm not trained in combat. I'm not skilled or practiced or ready for this. But I know anatomy, know where the femoral artery runs, know what happens when you apply pressure to the right places. I don't get the knife. He's faster than me, stronger, trained for exactly this kind of situation. But I buy us seconds, and seconds matter. Agent Walsh uses those seconds to tip her chair backward, breaking it against the concrete floor, freeing her legs if not her hands. The warehouse door explodes inward. Not literally, but it feels that way when Dante enters with 6 armed men, moving with the precision I watched on drone feeds yesterday. Except now I'm not watching from safety. Now I'm in the middle of it, and the difference is staggering. Vincent freezes. For a fraction of a second, I see his calculation: fight or surrender, die heroically or live to explain. He chooses explanation, which tells me everything about his character. He's practical, even now. Dante, he starts, you have to understand. Dante doesn't let him finish, doesn't shoot him or attack him or do any of the violent things I expect. Instead, He looks at Vincent with an expression that's worse than anger. Disappointment. Betrayal. The death of trust between men who've been brothers. You hurt her, Dante says quietly. I was protecting the organization. By killing what I protect. That's not loyalty, Vincent. That's fear disguised as strategy. Marco is cutting my restraints, and I'm cradling my dislocated thumb while another of Dante's men frees Agent Walsh. The warehouse fills with people. Dante's team, FBI agents who apparently followed Walsh's tracker. The complicated overlap of two worlds colliding. Walsh takes custody of Vincent, and I watch him be led away in handcuffs. He looks at me once, and I see him trying to understand what went wrong with his calculations. He planned for a victim. Got someone who fought back instead. The FBI agents want statements, want to know what happened, why Dante's lieutenant tried to kill a federal agent, how all of this connects to the Vitelli situation. Walsh handles them with practiced efficiency, creating space for me and Dante to exist in our own small bubble of aftermath. Your thumb, Dante says, and his voice is rough, dislocated. I'll need someone to reset it. I'll do it. And he does. There in the warehouse surrounded by chaos, with gentle hands that know exactly how much force to apply and when. The thumb slides back into place with a pop that makes my vision gray. But then the acute pain fades to something duller. Manageable. You freed yourself, he says. And there's something in his voice I haven't heard before. Pride, maybe. Or respect. I got tired of waiting to be saved. Emma. No, let me finish. I made a choice today, met with Agent Walsh. Gave her my father's ledger in exchange for immunity for you on the murder charges. And I did it without asking your permission because it was my choice to make. I watch him process this. Watch him understand that I've taken control of my own narrative, that I'm not the girl who needed protecting anymore. I'm the girl who protected him. The ledger exposes both organizations, he says carefully. Just the corruption, the cops and politicians who made your world possible. Walsh is going to use it to clean up the system, not to destroy you. I negotiated terms. You negotiated. Yes, I did. Because I'm done being a thing that happens to. I'm the one making things happen now. Something shifts in his expression. Not displeasure. Something closer to wonder. Like he's seeing me clearly for the first time. Like I've become three-dimensional in a way I wasn't before. Vincent was wrong, Dante says quietly. You're not my weakness. You're proof that I can still choose to be something other than just what I inherited. The words land in my chest. Heavy and warm and terrifying. Because they're true. Because we've both changed through this collision, learned languages we didn't speak before, become people we weren't when we started. The FBI takes their statements. Walsh promises to be in touch about the ledger and the cases she's building. Dante's team cleans up, makes the warehouse look like nothing significant happened here. Chicago moves on, oblivious to the small apocalypse that just unfolded in this forgotten industrial space. Tommy is released from the hospital the next day with a story about a car accident and trauma he'll spend years unpacking in therapy. I meet him in a coffee shop in Evanston, and we talk for 3 hours about our father, about the past, about the truth that neither of us was equipped to handle at 19 or 23, or maybe ever. Are you okay? He asks, looking at my bandaged thumb and the shadows under my eyes that no amount of concealer can hide. I'm alive, I tell him, and I'm learning that sometimes that's enough. The next few weeks are bureaucratic chaos. Agent Walsh's investigation unfolds like dominoes. 3 aldermen arrested, 5 police commanders indicted, a federal judge who mysteriously resigns before charges can be filed. The Chicago Tribune runs a front-page story about corruption so deep it took 7 years of a missing gambler's documentation to expose. My father's name appears in exactly 1 paragraph, identified only as a confidential source whose information proved invaluable. He gets his posthumous redemption, wherever he is, dead or hiding or living some other life with some other family. I don't try to find him. Don't need to anymore. His legacy isn't the debt or the fear or the abandonment. It's the ledger, the last gift. The proof that he loved me the only way he knew how. Dante and I negotiate our relationship with the same careful precision we applied to surviving the past 2 weeks. He doesn't ask me to move into his world permanently, doesn't demand or expect or assume. Instead, he asks, "What do you want?" We're in my apartment. The one in River North that still doesn't quite feel like mine but is starting to. And morning light spills through those floor-to-ceiling windows, turning Chicago golden. I want to finish nursing school. Want to work at St. Catherine's. Want a life that's mine, that I built, that no one gave me. Okay? But I pause, trying to find words for something I've never tried to articulate. I want you. This. Whatever we're building. As long as it's something we choose, not something we're trapped in, I can work with that. And he does. We both do. We negotiate boundaries and autonomy and all the complicated logistics of loving someone dangerous while remaining yourself. I keep my apartment, my job, my independence that I fought too hard to easily surrender. But Dante is there too, woven into my life in ways that feel chosen rather than imposed. I graduate nursing school in May with honors and a job offer from St. Catherine's Emergency Department. Dante attends the ceremony in an impeccable suit, sitting in the back row like any proud partner, and no one would guess that he's the reason half the hospital's security protocols were upgraded. The final scene is a Tuesday morning in June. I'm standing at my apartment window in scrubs, preparing for my first official shift as a registered nurse. Behind me, Dante is still sleeping in my bed, a rare vulnerability he only allows here, in this space that belongs to me. I'm wearing the St. Christopher medal he gave me that feels like a lifetime ago. But I'm also wearing the small compass necklace I bought myself last week, a reminder that I'm responsible for my own direction now, my own choices, my own navigation through this complicated world. Outside, Chicago wakes up, messy and beautiful and imperfect. The same city it's always been, except I'm different now. Stronger, harder in some ways, softer in others. I survived, but more than that, I transformed. Learned that being seen doesn't mean being consumed. That accepting help doesn't mean surrendering power. That love, dangerous, complicated, impossible love, can coexist with autonomy if both people are brave enough to keep negotiating. Dante stirs, opens his eyes, watches me watching the city. "You're going to be late," he says, his voice rough with sleep. "I'm going to be exactly on time." "Emma, yeah? I'm proud of you." 3 words. They shouldn't mean as much as they do, but they land in my chest like an anchor, like proof that transformation matters. That the girl who walked toward danger in an emergency room became someone who walks toward her future, unafraid. I press a kiss to his temple and whisper, "Don't burn down the city while I'm gone." His laugh follows me out the door, and I walk into my life, the one I chose, the one I fought for, the one I'm finally brave enough to claim. Not because the world became safe, but because I became dangerous enough to survive it. If you made it to the end of this story, let us know in the comments which city you're watching from, and click the yellow bell to subscribe to the channel and support us. Keep the adventure going by clicking on the suggested video on your screen.